Hello there. Today's lesson, this is Math 0018, Section 3.8. We're going to look at dividing fractions and mixed numbers. So those are our two objectives for today. So first of all, you need to know a couple of definitions. A reciprocal of a fraction or any number that can also be written as a fraction is that fraction with the numerator and denominator switched. So basically, whenever you flip a fraction, okay, and you change the numerator and denominator, flip that order there, that's giving you the reciprocal. It's also called the multiplicative inverse of the number, but we'll mostly use the word reciprocal. So, if we're looking at variables here, the reciprocal of a over b, you flip it, b over a. If we have 3/4, the reciprocal is 4 over 3. So the whole idea of a reciprocal is the product of any number or a fraction times its reciprocal is always 1. Okay, so if you need a definition there, it's that fraction with the numerator and denominator interchanged. That's a reciprocal. And the process of flipping the numerator and denominator is called inverting the fraction. So we're going to look at using this to help us to divide fractions, because basically division is actually defined as multiplying by the reciprocal. So dividing by 2 is the exact same thing as multiplying by 1/2. You get the same answer. So that's what we're going to do when we have division of fractions, is we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So some of you learned flip and multiply, invert and multiply, whatever you learned, that's the same thing applies right now, okay? So if you have a fraction a over b divided by c over d, then you're going to rewrite it as a over b. You keep that the same, change it to multiplication, and you take the reciprocal, d over c, you flip that second fraction, okay? So look at the example, 2/5 divided by 3/4. You keep 2/5 the same, change the division to multiplication, and you use the reciprocal, flip the second fraction, 4 over 3. Then we just multiply fractions like we did in the last section. 2 times 4 is 8, and 5 times 3 is 15. And there's your answer. So here's the steps for dividing fractions. Just like we did when we were multiplying fractions, we're going to figure out the sign of our answer first, okay? Then you're going to change the division to multiplication by the reciprocal. So some people like to remember keep, multiply, flip, or I always tell my class keep, change, flip, so that it's kind of like KFC, but not exactly KCF. I don't know. Keep, change, flip. That's what you want to remember there, okay, when you're doing division. Then once you've changed it to multiplication, you can cross cancel, because that's what we've done in the previous section when we multiplied fractions. Then multiply what's left with the numerators and denominators, and always make sure your answer is in simplest form. So let's look at some problems. The first thing we need to do is be able to find a reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 3 over 5 would be 5 over 3. Okay? Now, number 2, you've got -6. So remember, -6 can be written as a fraction if we put it over 1. -6 over 1. So the reciprocal there would be -1 over 6. So if a fraction is negative, its reciprocal is also negative. So make sure you just keep that negative sign there. It doesn't matter if it's in the numerator or out front, wherever, just make sure you have it. So -4/7, its reciprocal would be -7/4. So you just flip it. Now 0, look at this. Technically you could put this over 1, but if you try to write 1 over 0, remember you can't divide by 0. That's undefined. So the answer here is there is none. 0 is the only number that does not have a reciprocal. Okay, so now we're going to look at dividing fractions. On number 1, we have -3/5 divided by 4/5. Remember, these denominators are the same, but you do not need like denominators when you multiply or divide. The only time the denominators have to be the same is when you add or subtract fractions. So we're going to do keep, change, flip. We're going to keep -3/5. We're going to change it to multiplication and flip the second fraction, 5 over 4. Now, it's a multiplication problem. So the first step for this, check your sign. A negative times a positive is a negative, okay? Now see if we can cancel. Well, we can definitely cancel these 5's. 5 divided by 5 leaves 1, and 5 divided by 5 leaves 1. So 3 times 1 is 3 on top, and 1 times 4 is 4. So we end up with negative 3/4. Okay, number 2, we have a negative divided by a negative, so I know that that's going to give me a positive. I'm going to go ahead and put the sign there. So I'm going to keep the first fraction, change it to multiplication, flip the second fraction. Now notice that I still keep the negative sign in the numerator just because I think that's easier to see there. And actually I could have written this without any signs at all because I already figured out the sign of my answer. Okay, but either way. So now 2 and 5, no common factor there, just 1. But 3 and 6 I can divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 leaves 1, and 6 divided by 3 leaves 2. So on the top I have 2 times 2 would be 4, and on the bottom 1 times 5 would be 5. So we get 4/5. Alright, number 3. Negative 5/6 divided by 3/4. So we're going to figure out the sign. A negative divided by a positive is still a negative. And then we do keep the first fraction, change it to multiplying, flip the second, use the reciprocal. Okay? So 5 and 3, no common factor there, just 1. But 4 and 6, I can divide by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So on top I have 5 times 2 is 10, and 3 times 3 is 9. Now, they didn't say anything about writing it as a mixed number, so I'm pretty sure you could just leave that as an improper fraction. But you'll just have to look and see what the directions say. Alright, look at number 4. Evaluate x divided by y for the given values of x and y. X is negative 2/3 and y is negative 4/9. So, x, we're going to put that first, negative 2/3 divided by negative 4/9. Okay? So, I know that my answer is going to be positive. So, I need to do keep, change, and flip negative 9/4. I am going to run out of room. Alright, so we know it's a positive. Look at the 2 and the 4. You have a common factor of 2. So 2 divided by 2 leaves 1. 4 divided by 2 leaves 2. 3 and 9, common factor of 3. So if we divide by 3, 3 divided by 3 leaves 1. And 9 divided by 3 leaves 3. So on top I have 1 times 3 is 3, and on the bottom 1 times 2 is 2. So our final answer there is just positive 3/2. Okay? Okay, now when we are dividing mixed numbers, we're going to do the same thing like we did multiplying mixed numbers. The first step is to change your mixed numbers to an improper fraction, because once it's an improper fraction, then it's just like dividing fractions. So you divide the improper fractions and make sure you write your answer in lowest terms. So remember, to divide fractions, you're still going to do keep, change, or multiply, either way that you want to think about that, flip. Okay, so we're multiplying by the reciprocal. And you may need to write your answer as a mixed number depending on your directions. Okay, so we have 7 1/2 divided by 4 2/3. So the first step is to change both of these to improper fractions. So 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 would be 15/2. Do not try and change it to multiplication yet, because so many people get mixed up. They're like, have I flipped it? Have I not flipped it? Just keep it as division for now. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 would be 14/3. So now that we have a division problem, we're going to do keep the 15/2, change, flip 3/14. Okay? So, let's see, no signs, so we don't have to worry about that. 15 and 14, no common factors. 3 and 2, no common factors. Okay, so we get 15 times 3 is 45, and 2 times 14 is 28. So it says write your answer as a mixed number. So I need to divide 45 divided by 28, and I think that only goes once. Let's see. Yeah, just one time, okay? 28, and that's going to leave 17. Is that right? Yes. Okay, so our mixed number is going to be 1 and 17 over 28. So just take your time when you're doing all the calculations, okay? All right, negative 10 and 1/3 divided by negative 2 and 5/6. So I know it's going to be positive because I've got two negatives there. So first, change them to improper fractions. Okay, 3 times 10 is 30 plus 1 is 31 over 3. Keep it as division. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 5 is 17 over 6. So now, keep the first fraction, change it to multiplying, 6 over 17. Keep, change, flip, okay? All right, 31 and 17, no common factors. But 3 and 6, I can divide by 3. That leaves 1 and 2, okay? 6 divided by 3 is 2. So on top, I have 31 times 2 is 62, and 1 times 17 is 17. So now I need to divide that out. So 62 divided by 17. Where is my calculator? Where is my super suit? All right, sorry, that was a Disney Incredibles reference. If you didn't get it, watch the movie. Okay, so it goes 3 times, and that is 51. 3 times 17, and that leaves 11. Oops, that's a 1. So we end up with 3, or can I write my answer back here? 3 and 11 over 17. So there's your mixed number there. All right, let's look at number 3. We have a negative divided by a negative, so we know that is a positive. Change your first mixed number to an improper fraction. So 13 times 6 is 78, and then add the 5. That gives you 83, right, over 6. Now, this is negative 7 over 1. So just keep it as a fraction right now, 7 over 1. And then in the next step, we're going to do keep 83 over 6, change it to multiplying, and flip 1 over 7. Okay? 7 does not go into 83. So we are just going to multiply straight across. We get 83 on top. 6 times 7 would be 42. So now we need to do that division. 83 divided by 42. And let's see, that probably only goes once. Yep. Okay, one time. So that's 42. And when you subtract, you get 41. So our mixed number is 1 and 41 over 42. So there's your answer there. Okay? And number 4, we have negative 8 divided by 4 and 4/5. So we're going to write negative 8 over 1. And remember, a negative divided by a positive is going to be a negative. So put our sign there. So we're going to change that mixed number to an improper fraction. So negative 8 over 1, keep it as division for now. 5 times 4 is 20. Plus 4 would be 24 over 5. Okay? Now, keep, change, flip. So negative 8 over 1 times 5 over 24. Okay? So the 8 and 24 have a common factor of 8. So 8 divided by 8 is 1, and 24 divided by 8 is 3. So I have 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 3 is 3. Okay? And it's a negative. But remember, we want to write it as a mixed number. So 5 divided by 3, 3 will go into 5 once. That's 3, and that leaves 2. So there's your mixed number, 1 and 2/3. And it's a negative. So negative 1 2/3. All right. I think we are to the U tries. So pause your video and try these problems. So this slide we're going to find the reciprocal. So number 1, the reciprocal of 8 over 7 is just 7 over 8. Number 2, negative 9, remember you can put that over 1, so the reciprocal would be negative 1 over 9. Okay? Negative 10 over 3, the reciprocal would be negative 3 over 10. And 1, remember that can be written as 1 over 1, so you can either write the reciprocal as just 1, or you could write it as 1 over 1, either way. Okay? All right. So here's some division of fraction problems. Negative 5/12 divided by 15 over 32. So I know my sign's a negative. I'm going to put that there. And then I'm going to do keep, change to multiplication, and flip. 32 over 15. Okay. So I can cancel all kinds of stuff here. 5 and 15 divide by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Now 32 and 12, 4 will go into both those. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 32 divided by 4 is 8. So now, that's a big old mess. 1 times 8 is what I have left on top, and on the bottom, 3 times 3 would be 9. So negative 8/9. That's the answer there. Okay? Number 2, negative divided by a negative. So that's going to be a positive. So negative 4/9 divided by negative 2/3. We're going to keep the first one, change it to multiplication, flip the second, negative 3 over 2. Okay? We know it's a positive, so we can cancel. 4 and 2, we can divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2 leaves 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then 3 and 9 have a common factor of 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So now multiply. 2 times 1 is 2, and 3 times 1 is 3. So we end up with positive 2/3. Okay? Number 3, a positive divided by a negative is going to be, oops, I was screwing that up. It's going to be a negative. Okay? So keep 1/8, change, and flip. Negative 12 over 5. Okay? So we already figured out our sign. 8 and 12 I can cancel by 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 leaves 3. So on top I have 1 times 3 is 3. And on the bottom 2 times 5 is 10. So we end up with negative 3/10. That would be it. Okay? And number 4 here, evaluate x divided by y for the given values of x and y. X is negative 1/5 and y equals 3/10. So I'm going to write out negative 1/5 divided by 3/10. Okay, so first of all, a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So we've got our sign. Then we do keep the negative 1/5, change it to multiplying, and flip 10 over 3. Okay? We already figured out our sign. We can cancel the 5 and 10 by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 3 is 3. So our final answer is negative 2/3. Okay? All right, so here we have a couple of division of mixed numbers. So you do the same thing, except that you have to remember to change it to an improper fraction as your first step. So one thing we can do, even before we change them to improper fractions, is figure out our sign. A negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive. Now change them both to improper fractions. So 3 times 15 is 45, plus 4 would be 49 over 15. Okay? Keep it as division for right now. Then 2 times 10 is 20, plus 1 would be 21 over 10. So now we have 49 over 15, keep that the same. change it to multiplication. If you want to keep the negative signs in here, you can. I'll put them back in. But you need to realize we already figured out our sign. Makes it so much easier. Okay? So we're doing keep, change, and flip. So that's going to be negative 10 over 21. All right. All kinds of stuff is going to cancel on this one. 5 will go into 15 and 10. So if I divide by 5, 10 divided by 5 is 2. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Now, look at 49 and 21. 7 goes into both those. 49 divided by 7 is 7. 21 divided by 7 is 3. So I'm going to rewrite this because that's pretty messy. 7 over 3, and also I have room to do it for once, times 2 thirds. Okay, that's what was left. 7 over 3, 2 thirds. So now we multiply. 7 times 2 is 14. 3 times 3 is 9. Now they did not say to change it to a mixed number, but since we started with mixed numbers, they probably want you to. So let's change that 14 over 9 to a mixed number. So 14 divided by 9 will go one time, and that leaves 5. So we have 1 and 5/9, and it's positive. So there you go. All right, number 6. We have a positive divided by a negative, which is going to be a negative. Okay? Change them to improper fractions. So 8 times 3 is 24, plus 3 would be 27 over 8. Keep it as division. Okay? 16 times 2 is 32, plus 7 would be 39 over 16. All right, so now keep 27 over 8, change, and flip 16 over 39. And I'm just leaving the signs out because it's just easier. All right, so let's see. Well, 8 and 16 can be canceled by 8. They have a common factor of 8. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. 16 divided by 8 is 2. And then 27 and 39. I know 3 will go into both those. 3 goes into 27 9 times, and 3 will go into 39 13 times. Okay? So now we multiply across the top. Let's see what we have left. 9 over 1 and 2 over 13. Makes it easier to look at. 9 times 2 is 18. 1 times 13 is 13. So now divide it out. Let me see where I can do that. I'll do it up here. 18 divided by 13 goes once. 13 times 1 is 13, and that leaves 5. So there's our mixed number, 1 and 5/13. And it's a negative. Okay? And that should be it for 3.8. Yep.